Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, I'm going to be showing you a deck which has gone and done some winning over in Japan. And ladies and gentlemen, it's weird, it's unusual, it's unique, and it's awesome. Because it seems to kind of revolve around Dewgong and Persian GX. Now, I have done videos about both of these cards. I will put links to them in the description where you can hear me go through them and analyze them in full. But today, we are focusing specifically on the deck list as a whole. But having said that, I want to start off having a little bit of a chat about Dewgong. Shout out to the lovely ADVGYM over on Twitter who did hook me up with this particular list. Now, I do need to mention this is a Zoroark deck. So many good decks nowadays, ladies and gentlemen, are Zoroark decks, and there's no way around it. This is a Zoroark deck. This deck plays Zoroark. It's sad, because Zoroark's not that inventive, right? We all know what Zoroark does. Discard a card from your hand to draw 2, double colorless energy, and you do 20 damage for each Pokemon you have in play. We've been there, we've done that, we've seen it all before. Zoroark has not stopped being good. But I would rather focus on the 2-2 Dewgong line here, because Dewgong is one of the more interesting Pokemon that I think we've had released in quite some time. So, Dewgong then, and our translations here for the unreleased cards do come from the lovely David Hochmann over at limitlesstcg.com/translations. And Dewgong, for just 3 colorless energy, does 20 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. That is ridiculous. It is phenomenal. Now, you do have to discard 2 energy attached to Dewgong in order to do this, but you're playing double colorless energy, so the theory here is very simple. You get an energy on Seal, and then the next turn you evolve into Dewgong, attach a double colorless energy, discard it, take out a couple of benched Pokemon. It's redonk. However, we're not actually playing any basic energy here. Now, I know we don't usually look at the energy line this early, but what we're playing is 4 double colorless and 2 triple acceleration energy. Triple acceleration energy is any free energy, but it can only be attached to an evolved Pokemon, and it gets discarded at the end of the turn. And essentially here, this is a silver bullet against a whole bunch of decks. So let's say you're playing a mirror match and your opponent's got Zorua out. I explained this in a video with Dewgong. The rule is very simple. If your opponent wants to have a Zoroark, they have got to bench 3 Zorua. Because if they only bench 2, you KO them both with Dewgong, and they don't have one to evolve next turn. Against evolving decks with 60 HP or less, and remember, Professor Elm's lecture makes people want to play 60 or less nowadays, because you can search 3 of them out with Professor Elm's lecture, you're just absolutely crushing. And you're just wrecking your opponent's setup. And that is going to lead to some easy, easy wins. Now, the other Pokemon we have here is Persian GX. Persian GX is another one of these which I thought looked extremely interesting. So, it's mainly the ability here. You can only use it once during your turn, it does not stack. But if a Pokemon EX or GX was knocked out during your opponent's previous turn, you can search for any 2 cards and put them into your hand. This is really, really good for consistency. Bearing in mind you're playing special energy, you're relying on having to find your double colorless energy and your triple acceleration energy. These are not easy things to find. Unless your opponent knocks out a Zoroark, because they're going to be knocking out your Zoroark, that's going to be what they're trying to do, and then you can just search out whatever cards you need and just be rocking and rolling. This is a very nice ability which can help you greatly. And this is what makes it different to your average Zoroark deck. Firstly, you've got the ability from Persian, and secondly, Dewgong taking out bench Pokemon is phenomenal. Now, we do actually have some decent attacks on Persian. The GX attack does 150 and switches to the bench, which isn't phenomenal, but remember, you're not using Zoroark's GX attack, so you might want this at some point. And then 3 energy, but bearing in mind it's just 1 triple acceleration energy, that's what you're using to attack. It does 10 damage, plus 20 more for each Pokemon in your discard pile, but you cannot add more than 180. So you do 190 with 6 Pokemon in the discard. This is very handy, ladies and gentlemen. This is very handy indeed. Now, in terms of other Pokemon here, we got 2 Tapu Lele, which go ahead and search out your supporters. We've got 1 Dedenne, whereby when you bench it, you can discard your hand and draw a new hand of 6. We've got 1 copy of Ditto. We're playing 3 different Stage 1 lines in this deck. You better believe we're going to be playing Ditto, which can evolve into any of them. And then we have a 1/1 line of Alolan Muck. Yeah, I lied. It's actually 4 different Stage 1 lines. Alolan Muck turns off basic abilities, like the aforementioned Tapu Lele, like the aforementioned Dedenne, like the aforementioned Ditto Prism Star, etc., etc. It shuts down a whole bunch of decks. It's really good. And you only play a 1/1 line because it's a tech and you might never need it. But on the games where you do need it, it's absolutely brilliant. Now, in terms of supporter cards here, there are a bunch that we would ordinarily expect. We've got a mixture of Cynthia and Lily, because they're the best draw cards we've got at the moment. Cynthia, shuffle your hand into your deck, draw 6 cards. Lily, draw until you've got 6 cards in hand, unless it's turn 1, in which case you draw until you've got 8 cards in hand. They're really good. They are going to help you. 2 copies of Judge here for a little bit of disruption. Because you see, if you've got Dewgong spreading a bit of damage, or you've got Zoroark, etc., you can disrupt your opponent and you get a new hand of 4, but that's fine because Zoroark's drawing you extra cards. You're going to be less hurt by Judge. It's worth playing. 1 copy of Professor Kukui does an extra 20 damage, draws you 2 extra cards. That can be kind of good. That can help you hit the numbers. 2 copies of Guzma to drag bench Pokemon up and KO them. And 2 copies of Ace Roller to heal your Pokemon. If one of your GXs gets hit but not KO'd, Ace Roller will pick them up and you don't have to risk saying bye-bye to them. And we've got a really weird mixture here of Pokemon search cards. We've got 4 copies of Ultra Ball. Obviously, Ultra Ball's phenomenal. Can search you out any Pokemon. Yeah, you got to discard 2, but that's fine. 2 copies of Nest Ball to get your basics in the early game. 2 copies of Timer Ball to find your evolution Pokemon. Flip 2 coins, find 1 evolution Pokemon for each heads. And then we've got 2 copies of Pokemon Communication, which let you swap a Pokemon in your hand for 1 in your deck, which can be very helpful, especially in a deck like this, where you're playing just a whole bunch of different Pokemon. It can actually be really, really handy to be able to find the specific one you want and swap them all in and out. That can be a very handy thing to do. And then 1 Mysterious Treasure. You only discard 1 card from your hand, but then you can only search for a Psychic Pokemon. But you've got your Muck line, you've got your 2 Tapu Lele, so it is worth playing. We then see 2 Choice Band to do an extra 30 damage. We see a Rescue Stretcher, which can get your Pokemon back. Really handy, especially for the one-offs that we're playing. Other than Ditto Prism Star, who cannot get gotten back. He's a Prism Star. When he gets KO'd, he goes to the Lost Zone. We got 1 copy of Lysander Labs, of all things here. A lovely little supporter card that says that Pokemon tools in play have no effect. It means that your opponent's choice bands don't do extra damage. It means your opponent's spell tag don't get to drop damage, etc. It's only a one-off. It's a fun little tech, which is going to come in some games, in some matchups. It's not always going to be perfect. And then these 2 cards. And I'm going to be honest, right? I've gotten pretty good at identifying cards from very tiny pictures with Japanese names. But I'm especially proud of these 2, ladies and gentlemen. Have you got them yet? We got 1 copy of Power Pad to reuse all of your supporters, because you might want to get a second Professor Kukui, another Ace Roller, etc. And 1 copy of Field Blower. Yeah, Lysander's Lab turns off those tools, but sometimes you would just rather get rid of them. I know this is, at its heart, a Zoroark deck, and I know that the main Pokemon here is Zoroark. But make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, this plays a heavy Dewgong line and a heavy Persian line, and it kind of relies on triple acceleration energy for both of them, and for that reason, I am willing to say that this is a new and exciting and fun deck about which I am rather excited. But I would very much like to know what you think about it. So please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts. But please do remember the rule, ladies and gentlemen. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about other games that don't have Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.